Hello everyone, welcome back to the class real-time system. Previous classes we have talked about the basic information like on the historical background and also introductions of real-time system and the definitions of real-time systems. Okay, now we are going to talk about the classifications of real-time system. How the real-time system will be classified based on what. So those things we are going to discuss in this video. Okay, so the classifications of real-time system. So before going to this classifications of real-time system, actually the feature between the real-time system and also a embedded computer is that the computer is connected to the environment within which it is working by the wide range of interface devices and the receives and sends a variety of simulation. I mean the variety of signals. Okay, considering the computer control system with the communication task, I'll show you. Okay, so based on that, it will be I'll show you the classifications based on that. Okay, and it has the one common features that they are connected by the physical devices and to produce which are external to the computer systems. Okay, now, based on the previous diagram, what we have discussed, from the plant to the computer control which is connected. So one of the diagram we have discussed in the previous things. So the based on that we are going to define here the class based task and the clock based task and also a event based task and interactive systems. So do you remember that the diagram what we have discussed in the previous thing? So the diagram is from the plant taking the input and that input will be sent to the computer system by collecting the informations of input task which will be converted into the image and that will be sent to the controlling communication applications and the communication interfaces from that input again the informations which will be transferred back to the plant. So this is what the diagram which we talked about in the previous classes. Okay, the previous class. From this, the synchronization between the external process and the internal action which is carried out by the computer that may be defined in terms of the passage of times or the actual time of the day. Okay, in that the case that the system is said to be a clock based and then operations are carried out according to the time schedule. Okay, so we can define it in terms of the events. For an example, the closure of the switch in which it is said to be the event based system. Okay, if it is based on the clock, then we can tell it is nothing but on the clock based system. If it is an event occur, the operations which takes place, that is called the event based system. And third category, it is nothing but on the interactive, in which the relationship between the action in the computer and the system, it is loosely which is defined. That is finally the requirement is that the set of the operations in the computer that should be completed within a predefined time. Okay, actually the classifications of the real-time systems are defined by the clock-based system, event-based system and the interactive system. Actually the clock-based system, which is also called as the classic and also a periodic system, and then event-based system are also called as the aperiodic, and the interactive system, it is nothing but the interaction. Okay, so the first we'll talk about the clock-based task. So the clock-based tasks are typically referred to as the classic or a periodic task. Okay, so where the term can imply either that the task is to be run once per the time period t or the cycle time t, or it is to run at the exactly the t units of interval. So that is called the clock-based system. Actually, a process plant operate in a real time, and thus we talk about the plant time constraint. It is based on the time constraints. Okay, so within a time limit it should be performed. Okay, so the time constraint is a measures of the time taken by the plant to respond to a change in input or load, and it is used as a characteristics of the plant. Okay, so the time constraints may be measured in hour or or it may be on the predefined time which is specified, okay, for the some chemical process or in the milliseconds for an aircraft system. For the feedback control, the required sampling rate will be depend on the time constraints of the process to be controlled. So everything, if it is on feedback control system, that should be performed within a time limit. Okay, so the shorter the time constants of a process, the faster the required sampling rate. Okay, actually, if the each computations are the data transmission executed repeatedly at the regular or the semi-regular time interval in order to provide a functions of a system on the continuous basis in modeled as a periodic task. Okay, especially each periodic task denoted by Ti as as a sequence of the job. Okay, so the completions of the operations within a specified time is depend on the number of operations to be performed and then speed of the computer. Okay, so that synchronization which is usually obtained by adding the clock to the computer system normally referred to as the real-time clock, and using a signal from the clock to the interrupt the operations of the computer at the some predefined fixed time intervals. Okay, so the clock based task is nothing but it should be operate within the time which is specified there with a t interval of time. Okay, every t interval of time the operations must perform. Okay, so if the clock interrupt is set at the faster rate than the sampling rate, it may count many interrupts before running to the particular task. Okay, so I told you that the clock based tasks are typically referred to as a cyclic task, or it is a periodic task. Within the period it is keep on rotating, keep on checking the operations. But the terms can imply either the task is to run once per the time period t, or is to run at exactly the t unit intervals. Okay, for example, in process of the plant operation, the computer may carry out the plant input and then plant output and control the task in response to the clock interrupt, or if the clock interrupt has to set at the faster rate than the sampling rate, it may count each interrupt until it is time to run the task. Okay, so for a larger systems, the task may be subdivided in a group for the controlling the different parts of the plant, and these may need to run at the different sampling rate. Okay, so the task are the process which comprises of some codes, it associated the data and then control block data structures which the operating system used to define and manipulate the task. Okay, so a periodic task is nothing but the well-known deterministic workload model. Okay, so the clock-based task is nothing but the periodic and also a cyclic task. Okay, so this is all about your clock-based system. And when we come to this event-based task, it is also called as aperiodic task. It will not perform in a specified time interval. So whenever the event is occurs, so that time this operations which takes place. So that's why it is called the event-based task, and also it is called as aperiodic. It is not in a periodic, non-deterministic workload model. Okay, classic model, the clock based model, it is nothing but a deterministic workload model, but the event based task is nothing but a non-deterministic workload model. Okay, so there are many systems where the actions have to be performed not at the particular times or the time interval, but in response to the some event. Okay, so the event occurring at the non-deterministic interval and then event based task are the frequently referred as aperiodic task. It does not happen frequently, in the equal period of time than that particular task which is called as aperiodic task. Okay, such task may have the deadline experienced, okay, so in these kinds of tasks may have the deadline in terms of the start time and also a finish time. Start time and also the finish time. Okay, so for example, So for example, a task may be required at the start within a 0.5 seconds of an event occurring, or alternatively it may have to produce an output at the end time within a 0.5 seconds of events. Like this, how the start and the stop time which will be defined, the deadline which will be given to the event based task. Okay, and in many systems whose action have to be performed not at a particular time or the time interval but in response to the sum of the events. Say one more example is closing the valve. Okay, the turning of the pump or closing the valve when the level of the liquid in the tank which reaches to the predefined value, or switching the motor off in the response to closer to the micro switches which indicating that some of the desired position has to be reached. Okay, so the same thing, water level controller or closing the valves, if you see that it will not be run, the water level controllers and all which will not perform the operations frequently within a predefined time. The periodically it will not be performed. Whenever the tank is empty, it reaches to the below level. When it comes down to the below level, predefined level, then it also automatically switch on the motors and the water is filled into that particular tank and it will be switched off. Okay, once if it is filled, the tank is filled, it will be switched off. So this is the operations of the event based task. So whenever the event is occur, whenever the tank is empty, that time the motor is switched on. So it is called the event based task. So it will not be performed in periodically. So it is called aperiodic task. Okay, aperiodic task, and also it is called as non-deterministic workload. Non-deterministic workload. Okay. And also this kind of, the one more thing is the event based system are also used extensively to indicate the alarm conditions and initiate the alarm actions. Example, the temperature or the pressure is too high. So whenever which is high, the buzzer will be on. Okay, or alarm will indicate when it is too hot or when it is too low. Okay, so this event based task, the system must respond within a given maximum time to the particular event. Okay, maximum particular event, time limited which is given. It is normally implies the interrupts to inform the computer system that action which is required. See, actually the event based system, it is normally employs the interrupt. Okay, normally which employs the interrupts to inform the computer system that action which is required. Some simple system may use the pollings and all. Okay, so the events occurring at non-deterministic interval and then event based task are frequently referred to as aperiodic task. You have to remember this, aperiodic task. Okay, and the third classification is interactive systems. So the interactive system, which represents the largest class of the real-time system and covers such systems as the ATM reservation systems and also a reservation for the hotels and also the ticket booking, airlines, etc. Okay, and the real-time requirement is usually expressed in terms of the average response time must not exceed. The average response time must not exceed. That is the main thing in this interactive system. Okay. How these interactive systems are different from the event based system. Okay, so whenever the interrupt is occur, so the interactive system which also performs whenever the event is occur. Okay, but so it is different from the event based system. How it will be different? So the output depends on the internal state without any response to the environment. Okay, so whatever the output which is depends on the internal state of the event, it is not depending on the environment. But the event based system is not like that. Okay, so for example, ATM machine, automatic bank teller system that might requires an average response time not exceeding 20 seconds. For example, it is given. Okay, for example, it is given. So this type of system, it seems similar to the event based system. An automatic bank teller does not know that we are about of missing a train, or that it is raining hard, or we are getting wet. Its response which is depending on how busy the communication lines and then controlling the computer. So that is the difference between the event based system and also the interactive system. It is not at all the response, what output response is not at all depending on the external environment. It is depending on the internal environment, whatever it is. So whatever we are in the position, so that will produce the output based on the communication line and also the busy signal. Okay, based on that, that will provide the output. So that is the difference between event based and also a interactive based system. So example, it is an ATM. ATM response, it is depending on the network conditions, account state, and not on the outside factors like on the user urgency or the weather conditions outside. Okay. So the mini interactive system which gives the impressions of the clock based, that they are capable of displaying the date and then time, but they do not they do indeed have a real time clock which enables them to keep a track of the time. Okay, so this is all about here the classifications of real time systems. Okay, so in the classification we have talked about the clock based system, event based system, and interactive system. So in the clock based system, it is also called the cyclic and periodic. That means within a predefined time, I mean fixed interval of time, that particular system, it is keep on working, keep on checking the operation. That is called the clock based system. And the event based system, it is nothing but it is also called as aperiodic system, because it does not operate with the time limits. So it operates whenever the event is occur. Okay, so it is called aperiodic signal. And third one is interactive system. So the interactive system, the interactions between the user and also a system which is based on the internal action. Okay, internal state of the system. It is not depending on the external environment. That is called the interactive system. Okay, so that must produce the output within a defined time, predefined time. So that is called the interactive system. So it is one of the important question. You may find these questions in your previous year examinations. That define the real-time system and the different classes of real-time system with an example. So this question is a repeated one in all the previous year question papers. So okay, so this topic is very much important. Okay, so this topic is very much important. You may get it from the 4 marks to 6 marks, 4 marks to 8 marks you may expect in this question. Real-time definitions and also a classifications of real-time systems, right? So these are my references. I hope this topic, this video is very helpful for you. We'll meet you in the next video. Thank you all.